All right. Welcome, everybody. We are now officially starting our first podcast, video blog, whatever you want to call this. Maybe we'll make up our very own catchphrase for what's happening right here of 2017.
Sweet. It sounds so much more impressive when you put it like that, you know?
Does it?
Yeah, like it's a new year and we're new people who wear new underwear and generally get new things done.
Absolutely.
It's really the new underwear, though.
It's really the new underwear. In my case, my underwear's on the outside. No, it's not true. I am wearing a new sweater, though. It's got this.
Cool.
I don't know. Everyone else can see it. Very nice. My mother gave this to me. My very own mother. Welcome.
I was going to make a joke about sweater puppies, but then you brought your mother into it, and it'd just be weird at this point. Yeah. I'll make a point not to do that now.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah. You're welcome.
So, I will bring you in, and we're going to continue on what we did last time we met, and that was quite a while ago, but we are working on adding a shell-like interface to our shiny new SourBoatLife webpage that's, not necessarily that shiny.
Right.
But it is new,
right.
boy, and it sure works.
Mm-hmm.
Works well enough for me anyway for now. Here it is.
Cool.
I'm showing them the webpage online. For those of us who've been hanging out with us a few times before, you'll notice that Daniel's avatar and talking head in the upper right corner is missing today. But don't worry, we still get to hear his melodious voice.
Greetings.
See, I told you so.
I'm feeling it, you know? It's
Yeah.
good. It's pretty sexy.
It does all right. It works for me.
Right.
At any rate,
it's the job done.
Last time we were here, we talked about adding a JavaScript shell that we could use to browse the site because we thought it was funny and for no other reason at all. None. So here it is.
Straight up.
Yeah. We just made it up. So, what we have lost... Oh, I need to connect ourselves to Flubits.
Mm-hmm. I just undid that, and it told me that there were changes up there.
Yeah.
So I accepted them.
Yeah, that was the right move. I did preemptively uploaded my changes to Flubits so we wouldn't have to worry about that this time around.
All right, cool.
So we did the right thing. Now, you will... Let's see. What's this button again? Clear highlights. Aha! Summon people here. I don't know if it worked or not, but I clicked the summon button.
I'm not yet there. Where is there? Tell me about there. Is it sh.js by any chance?
Nope.
No.
I was looking at mobile CSS.
Cool. Yeah. We talked about this a little bit.
Right. So one thing I just wanted to bring up briefly is why did I do it this way? I don't know. I could have probably just put a comma in there, but I'll fix it later. I was just trying to figure out why it didn't work on my Samsung phone, this original media query on the bottom here. So apparently, for whatever reason, max width didn't work for that phone anyway, so I added a second selector media query for max device width. I didn't read up all the details as to why, but apparently, at least on some phones, max width is not, it lies to you.
It tells you things about fictitious non-device pixels.
Something, or like, I don't know. I didn't read into the details. I just found.
See, because there's this other new there's some new elements, or not elements, they're new units like REM and REX, which are like relative EM and EX or something. I don't know.
Interesting.
There's stuff there. There might be like a real pixel instead of, there were air quotes there that you couldn't see.
Mm-hmm.
Real pixels versus not real pixels, but I don't know what a not real pixel would be
Would be
called.
right.
A fictional pixel?
A pixel.
A pixel, like a voxel, volumetric pixel.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's cool.
Whatever. Either way, I uploaded this. I uploaded this, and it now properly does the right thing on my phone. It makes me less angry.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That's
Or
cool because it
like,
doesn't look any different on my box yet, and I like updated and Flubits brought down the changes and stuff, and it's still the same.
yeah, it
I
didn't
don't know what
break
that's
anything.
about.
Not breaking
Yeah.
something is an excellent first step. And of course, could be a whole nother topic, right? We have a whole thing we've been ignoring, which is tests.
Well, that's
Um,
because we have conflicting philosophies about tests, right?
I don't know if we have conflicting uh, environments, habitats. We have conflicting test habitats, that's for sure.
That's true, yeah.
And a lot of your
So,
habitat kind of informs your current beliefs, right?
so because I know what my beliefs are, and you know what they are because you left, and they haven't changed since you left. Uh, what are your current beliefs about testing, just for the sake of our viewers?
Well, well, Daniel, I'm glad you asked. Okay, so my first belief, and I don't know, I don't know if you agree or not, but my first strident belief is that everything they did at my old job is wrong. Wrong, wrong, bad. Wrong.
Okay, okay.
Terrible.
Everything?
No. Everything involving testing, though. Uh, all test related topics. Well, no, that's not true. We did have quite a bit of unit testing, which is good. But that is only one layer out of a much larger stack of testing that should be done.
Oh, meaning the integration and acceptance tests.
At least, yeah, or at least a couple other layers. Um,
That's how
so,
many I named. I mean, are there more than two other layers? Like,
well,
I guess you
it
could
depends on. I mean, so
have
I'm
regression
pretty
tests
much
too.
certain. I'm certain every
Hmm.
company probably has a slight discrepancy even in what those terms mean, right?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
where one starts and the other stops and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for anyone who's curious, this episode is brought to you by Knob Creek, Kentucky Straight Bourbon. Our
All
new
right.
unofficial, not sponsoring us at all. I just made that up. All right.
So, all right.
It's
In the
actually pretty good.
time since you left.
So,
Oh, good, good. I'm drinking tea, but only because I already had a bunch of wine earlier today, and I still don't like wine. But a friend of mine brought it over, and
and
I
you drank
felt
it.
duly obliged. You know.
Well, that's
Well,
good of you.
yeah. You know, it's the least I can do.
Right.
So, since you left, we've hired somebody to help us kind of unfuck our testing situation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but she's only been with us for like 4 months, and it's a kind of a big job, and it hasn't really.
Yeah.
There's been progress, but we're not there yet with different layers of testing. Um, so my personal philosophy has drifted from I know it's bad for me that I don't test to kind of more of a active aggressive fuck testing. Maybe testing is for jerks and assholes, and I don't need testing. But I don't know. I like knowing that the code is right. I just, hate being bothered.
Well, all right, and there's a lot of different kinds. So when we were there, when I was working with you there,
Hmm.
we had unit testing, and let's be honest, that's basically it. To the point of we
Yeah,
didn't
and
even really have manual testing.
yeah,
Like
that's true.
fundamentally, the person who wrote the code should not be the one testing it when
Yeah,
you're
that's
doing
probably true.
especially any kind of manually testing, because all you're going to test is that exactly what you wrote works.
Yeah, well, you're going to test the happy path and be like, look, the happy path worked.
The happy
And
path
then,
worked, and everything I thought of worked because I just tested it after I wrote it
right. And then you take it to a scientist and they break it instantly
instantly
because
because
that's
they're doing things you
exactly
didn't
what
think
they're.
of, right?
Well, and some of them are bad with computers. And to be honest, the worse you are with a computer, the better you are as a tester.
Freaking
It,
yeah, the less ingrained you are with the product frequently means you make a much better tester because you don't have any assumptions built in, like, or any preconditions like ground into you, like, oh, it works like this, so you never try to do anything else with it because you already know how it works or whatever, which is what, of course, being a programmer, your problem is you can't. It's very difficult to test something uh, that you've already written in a comprehensive way because you're kind of already know what it's supposed to do and exactly how it's supposed to do, and you tend to test that, which of course works because you just wrote it, right?
right.
Uh, which is a big part of a big part of the whole test-driven development (TDD) push, right? Is
Hmm.
you write the test based off of what it's supposed to do, not what you've already written.
Hmm.
Uh, which sounds great, but I still haven't managed to actually do it. Uh,
Well, I've done it like a couple times, and it always has resulted in a slightly better design. I just can't, and to me, that's like the main thing that's interesting to me about test-driven design is that, or test-driven development. I even slipped up. That was a Freudian slip because what interests me about it is that it might improve the design.
right.
Um, by forcing you to use the API before you get lazy and figure out how to do it in the cheapest way, which is what you're going to do.
And
you
not the
know,
cheapest in any kind of like performance or you know any kind of good quality. We mean cheapest as in easiest to do
yeah, I mean,
usually.
like every door in your house is on the same side of your house because it was easier than putting the door in the front yard. That's kind of like what I mean by that. Where test-driven development would put the door in the front of the house, even though that means you have to, get off your ass and do a little bit more work.
Right.
So yeah. By the way, I tell people now that the OPT has rescue dog syndrome because if you come at it the wrong way, it gets mad and it will bite you. Like, doesn't like people with beards. It doesn't like people who click too fast. Like Laurent will tell people, don't click too fast in the OPT. It's
Oh God.
bullshit that anybody would ever say that about any program. Don't click too fast. Like, or what? Or a little elf who's powering this thing is going to get mad and demand a union mandated break or something.
Or raise.
Anyway,
Yeah, and
or
that's how it is. No, so what we should strive for in a real software project, which this is not, is is essentially to have enough automation in place that when you make a change, you can be fairly like you would be okay with you submitting your code, the automation running, and it automatically being pushed live.
yeah. Mhm.
just continuous development, right? It's you made the change, the automation passed, it's live on the live site or whatever, it's shipped,
Mhm.
and you're okay with that because your automation is good enough. And that's automation at the unit test level, at the integration tests level, at the higher pieces working together, and even UI automation of some sort or another. Uh,
Mhm.
and
Our
and
project may
that would
not be important enough for all those layers.
it's I mean honestly in a large way it's not important enough for any of those layers.
Yeah, I think you're probably right, unfortunately.
I mean, sorry, but it's true. Uh,
I'm hurt.
a
I'm
little butt
hurt.
hurt. So anyway, uh, that's that, and that's
So,
what we got going on. A lot of teams where I'm working now have are pushing towards TDD, uh, and they want to do that all the time. And there's some projects where it's easy. There's other projects where it's really not. Part of the problem I have is looking at it like I've got to go in and just mess with the code and just fuck with it for a while before I even know how or what to change to fix something, you know?
yeah. Hmm.
Like I got to get it kind of almost half implemented before I really know in it whether or not this is the right place to implement something.
Yeah, and so I don't know if this is still the case for you, but it's definitely still the case for me that often I get asked to figure out how long it will take me to do something. And if I really follow that process through, most of my time is spent trying to figure that out. And then I'm right there. I might as well just fix it. You know, like
Yeah.
most of the bugs that I have to address, it's going to be a one line fix. It's just going to take me 2 hours to find that line.
Yeah, right. And and that's another thing, time estimation. We started off um I don't know. I know we're not programming or anything here, but really, that's what we're here. In case anyone forgot, just to hang out and talk about programming, occasionally write a few lines of code, and to spend a lot of time dicking around. So
Hmm. Hmm.
here we are. Um, no, project management processes, right? Uh, we spent a lot of time on time estimation when I first joined the new job. Uh, estimating because we were using a variation of Scrum uh,
Hmm.
to do our agile process, but and so far I found that there's that doesn't again just like the other things we were talking about earlier today. Um, what that means is different for every company culture you work in by a little bit. It's not all exactly the same, but
Yeah.
nonetheless, we we'd have our user stories and we tried to estimate the size of that and we tried to see how many user stories we could take in our 2 week scrum. Uh, and to do that, we'd go through and we'd task out all the stories. We'd write down a bunch of tasks and that we thought we needed to do to complete the story, and then we'd estimate how long each of those tasks we think was going to take, and then we compare that with how many hours of uh, developer time and test time we had in those 2 weeks, taking into account vacations and holidays and all this stuff. And it was a
Mhm.
all day affair. Sometimes it felt like anyway.
So you're
Um,
spending one day every 2 weeks just estimating?
right. Just in meetings and estimating tasks and stories. And it was way too much and also outrageously inaccurate.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they've been trying to push us in that direction at your old job, and we've been kind of fighting it, but kind of not.
Well, so
I don't know. It's Go
my
ahead.
are pushing you towards agile development or just estimating how long every little thing is going to take?
Well, the estimating and it's kind of odd. Like
So,
our old boss kind of had this legend that we were agile, which was very, very untrue. And but they somehow seem to have kind of accepted his definition of agile, and so they kind of feel like they're doing agile and that's like solved, and so they just need to get the estimation part. It's very odd. Anyway,
well, and
go ahead.
here's number one. Number one thing that you need to do if you're going to pretend to do any kind of agile development, and to me, you should be doing this if you are working at any job ever, no matter what it is.
Hmm.
Are you
What's
ready?
that?
In a team, I mean, a team effort.
This
Every
is going to be
couple
good.
weeks, it's simple, it's dirt simple. Every couple weeks, you should have a meeting. It should be usually around an hour where you just talk about what worked and what didn't.
Hmm.
That's it. Like this, well, what are the pain points? And what kicked ass? What should we keep doing?
Hmm.
And it could be
Okay.
about almost anything. It could be like, look, guys, I know this is silly, but I spend at least 2 hours a day trying to figure out what PC load letter means, right?
Yeah.
Or it could have something more specific to do with your process, how you're handling your work, how like like what we're talking about right now. This should come up in a bi-weekly retrospective where you sit down
Hmm.
and you say, look, this isn't working. Task estimation, it really isn't working. How do we need to fix it? Because if you're going to be, especially if you're going to call yourself any kind of agile, the definition of agile is to be able to move and adjust course quickly, not just fast. It is not called the fast development methodology.
Yeah.
It's not fast in a straight line. It is the ability to change quickly, not to do things fast, but to change quickly. And you can't change quickly if no one's talking about what needs to change.
That's very profound. I'm actually kind of moved by what you're saying here. Like it pertains to my life. Hmm.
Drop the
I,
mic.
I
That's
sorry to
it,
be
guys.
surprised.
That's it, guys. The show's over. I'm glad you
Yeah.
all
Good
came.
night. Yeah.
I'm,
Well,
I'm going to turn this thing off while it's a success. All right.
yeah.
But for
You've been
real,
listening to
that's it.
SourBoatLife.
You have to be able to honestly look and be willing to make changes. So you should come out. So like our retrospective board has 3 or 4 columns, right? We usually use Trello, and it just says what didn't work, what went well, and then like a neutral category. Sometimes we just have, or like an open questions, like I don't know, is this good, is this bad, we should probably talk about it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then everybody on the team is free to anonymously, which depending on the team and the sort of work environment you're in might be important to have this be anonymous, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully it isn't. In a healthy team, it shouldn't be that necessary, but you should be anonymous where you can just add cards to these lists with your opinions. Like, I don't think this is working. I think this is working. And it can be about anything that pertains to your work, anything that's happening at the job. It doesn't have to be about technical processes in the job. It doesn't have to be with how your Scrum week works. It doesn't have to be about that. It could be about the code. It could be about the processes. It could be about personal interactions. Although, of course, you try not to, call out names, and you can't put a card up there that says,
HR incident. HR incident.
you put a card on the board that says, Jesus Christ, will Daniel ever shut the fuck up? That's not a good idea,
No,
right?
I would just reply no.
No, sir.
Nope.
But you can put a card up there that says something about, like, um,
Brian touched me in a bad place, and I didn't
no,
like it.
that last sentence is a lie.
Brian touched me in a bad place, and I found it surprisingly pleasant.
At least we're being honest now. Um, so no, but I mean, you could just put something up there that just says, can we try and keep the office quieter? Because
Yeah.
I'm finding it hard time because it's hard to concentrate.
Yeah. Well,
Right? You don't
we
have to
still
call out
have.
names. You don't have to
Mhm.
do any of that, right? But you can put up a card
Yeah.
there, and then the second step, especially if you're on a big team and you have a lot of comments, which I would expect to be the case at your position right now.
Probably.
uh, in the beginning, there's usually a lot of comments, right? And then
Mhm.
everybody goes through and just votes. They vote on each card. And you take, depending on how much time you have, how much time you want to spend on it, but you don't want to spend too long because then people stop taking you seriously. They get bored. They start staring off into space, right? So you can't push the time too far. But anyway, everyone votes. You take, and then you go through the cards, put them in order of highest votes to lowest, and go through the top few cards, how many ever you have time for, in each category. Um, and then you write up the much feared action items
Yeah.
underquote,
Mhm.
sorry, action items, right? And only a few of them, right? You write in action items for the cards you talk about, like especially where things went bad. You're like, okay, well, what can we do during this next 2 weeks to start addressing these things? And then if there's a ton of those, then you would vote for the top, and you'd vote on them again real quick, and then you just take the top two or three, because you're not going to fix everything in one meeting, and that's a big problem at the NRAO. Holy shit, let me tell you, at least when I was there, they want to
Yeah.
fix every single thing in one giant 8-hour long meeting.
That's still a phenomenon. I mean, it a bigger that's like a periodic thing that happens. Like every few months, they decide to try and do that.
Well, and
The
you know
the
why?
more common thing is the weekly. Well, tell us, Brian. Tell us why.
Because nobody is talking about it except every 2 months,
Right. Yeah.
right? You've got to talk
That's
about
true.
it every couple weeks. You got to keep on it. Otherwise, it piles up and piles up until you have an 8-hour long meeting. Anyway, what are you
Yeah.
going to say?
Well, you're absolutely right. But I was just going to make a snarky comment about scientists. So scientists get scientists and engineers have kind of like opposite attitudes towards things, because an engineer is like, if that's a problem, then you should bring it up and we should solve it. A scientist is more like, I've discovered another problem and I want recognition for that. Like,
Yeah.
they don't really give a shit. I mean, they care to some extent, but they're really in it to get credit for bringing it up. And oftentimes they'll bring things up that they actually don't care about, just so that they can bring something up.
Right.
It's Anyway. Yeah, snark about scientists. Hashtag snarky science.
So, right. Um. Anyway,
Anyway,
2 or 3 comments.
so
That's 2 or 3 action items. That's all you need, right? Right,
yeah,
guys. 2 or 3 action items, and then the rest of the stuff, you wait till next week, next meeting, next retrospective. You talk about those action items you had from last time. See if you made any progress, right? Make sure that
hmm
they didn't just write it down as an action item, then throw it away and forget about it. You got to keep accountability on those things. The second thing I forgot about, those action items should be assigned to people.
Hmm.
All right.
How does that work for the office is noisy?
Well, it should at least be signed to a more specific group of people. Like, um, for instance, we have this meeting should at the NRAO should include scientists. Not all of them, obviously. There's too many of them. Not all of them are relevant, but there are scientists that advise and work on the products that you're working on, right?
Hmm.
That
Yeah.
are nominally responsible for it. I would call them product owners or product managers if they were willing to actually take on all the reins that that would require. But uh, they should be there, and then you'll have developers there, and then you'll have management folks there. Their lead developers, whatever they be. So at the very least, like in the office being too loud case, all those other people have their own office. So it would be developer. You'd at least assign it to the subgroup of developers, right?
Hmm.
Just like if you're in an emergency situation, right? You don't yell out, somebody call 911. You grab a specific asshole by the shirt and you say, you call 911.
Yeah.
Because otherwise people are going to look around waiting for someone else to do it. And it's the same thing in this retrospective. If something specific needs to be done, find a person and it's their responsibility to get it done or at least make progress before the next meeting.
So you appoint like an office noise level warden, and that
Well, no,
person.
in that case, I mean, that's a generic and easy enough thing. But sometimes sometimes these tasks require interaction with other teams or with upper management, or
Yeah.
they require some other interaction with people that might not be in the meeting, and those should be assigned to a specific person. It's your job to go talk and see if we can get a new printer.
Hmm.
Somebody, it's your job, Brian, to take a class and learn what PC load letter means. Whatever.
It'll
Anyway,
take all week, I'm sure.
right. And this shouldn't be. It's just like anything else. I mean, you need feedback in order to improve.
Hmm.
If somebody's doing something wrong and they don't know it, they're not going to change. And it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be something wrong. If they're doing something inefficiently, they're doing something that's, whatever. You need feedback. And with that, I think I'm going to go ahead and have a brief interlude of a few seconds, a micro break, if you will, while I drink some water. And then we'll cut the video and we'll start in on possibly, maybe getting around to actually programming. Just you wait, it could happen.
Maybe. I'm kind of. All right.